You there? What you doing here, eh? What is it? Huh? Standbys? You're standing by? For what? Oh, you want to see a video about standbys? Gotcha. This right here? Are you sure? It's very controversial. Very unspoken controversial truth, you know? But, if you want to, follow, subscribe, and like. And maybe you'll get a 3-part series. This one being part 1. So, if you're a Star Wars Legion fan like I am, by the way, excuse the horrible British intro. I've had horrible practice with it lately, and I used to be very good. I don't know what happened to it. I think I've been more of an Irish accent fellow. But yeah, so if you're a fan of Star Wars Legion, then you know about standbys. Essentially, this game is a tabletop game, and it utilizes these small little tokens here that units get to take. And what I've found with playing with certain players is that some people don't mind them. They're just like, okay, it's a part of the game, whatever. However, other people are more like, I want to take back my action so you don't get to use your standby, because really I forgot about that standby, and I don't know, something rubs me the wrong way when like certain things get to be taken back but others don't. So that's what I'm really here for, is like this part 1 is all about how some of these how some people feel about standbys that seem to be antithetical to how I feel about standbys. I feel like they're a part of the game, and they're a necessary part of the game to sort of balance out over-aggressive lists, and sort of create this dichotomy of like, oh, you want to be very aggro? Okay, I'm just going to stand by and stop you from getting into this space. So we're going to talk about that. And I essentially broke up these 2 different viewpoints, my viewpoint and some others in the community's viewpoint regarding them. And I've broken them up into 2 categories, red and blue. Red being very aggro, and then blue, which is a very control player. Not to get the red and blue confused with like who gets to be red player and who gets to be blue player in Legion. That's just how I broke it up. Magic the Gathering background too. So, yeah. So we'll get into that. If nobody knows who I am, Robert, you can call me Craft Goblin. Let's get the camera closer. He takes a move, right? He moves here with the measurement tool. I don't have it with me, but no. And he takes a standby. This unit hasn't done its activation yet, but it's going to do its activation. This unit is in range 2 of this unit, so it's in standby range to react to anything this unit wants to do, right? When this unit activates and it takes its first activation, so say it moves here, speed 2 move, it's still in range to get shot. This unit can activate can trigger its standby to activate and shoot this unit. Now, the way standbys now work is that it has to shoot the unit that triggered its standby. It can't shoot anything else. So imagine like there's other miniatures here from the opposing player. It can't shoot any of these units. This unit could also move. So that's how that works. Now some people have an overall like how would I say, like just a negative vibe regarding standbys and the use of standbys. So like I've played with some players who would once this moves or does anything, like they'll do their first action, and then I will try to trigger my standby, and they'll be like, no, like hold on, I maybe I don't want to do anything with this unit. Maybe I want to do like speed 2 this way, but they already did their first activation. So it puts me in a really uncomfortable spot. Like, do I let them take it back, or do I trigger my standby? Now, they may not really want me to trigger my standby, but given the rules, given how the rules are written, it's like it's up to my discretion whether I trigger my standby or whether I use my standby. He triggered my standby, but I get to decide whether I use it or not in that given instance. For me, it's a may to activate my standby. For him, if he triggers my standby, he simply triggers my standby. And that's how it's read. Ultra aggressive players have like a weird vibe against control-y players, and control-y players are like, but it's a part of the game, why can't we control like what's going on in the game? And being a control player is kind of douchey, not gonna lie, it is kind of douchey. But expecting control players not to play the way they want to play is also kind of douchey. It's kind of like you're manipulating the player to play the way you want to play, not the way their archetype naturally wants to play. And it's like a catch-182 where it's like, who's right? Who's right? You can do the very casual thing and be like, okay, take back your action. You can do something else and I won't trigger my standby. But a lot of times, sometimes I feel like, no, I really wanted to trigger my standby this turn. And it moves into this idea, well, I'm going to reserve my right to take one of my actions on this unit, and I'm going to take a standby. That's reserving your right to act. Kind of like how money's, you're reserving your right to service. You work to gain, moolah, dinero, and that's your way of reserving right to service. So to sort of say, no, you don't get to buy that after all, after I've invested in it, kind of rude. And I don't know how many people see it from my perspective, but I feel like some people don't. So, I mean, anybody who sees this, who plays Legion, let me know your viewpoints. It can get very, like, intense when you play with friends who you don't want to disappoint, but they're very aggressive. So when you take a standby action and they forget about that, and you make it obvious, right? You're like, hey, I took a standby, don't forget about the standby. 4 activations later, they move into your standby range. You want to trigger your standby, they don't want you to. I don't know. Can y'all give me your opinion as to that? Like, it's very... It can be, amongst very passionate players, a very tumultuous conversation. When you're just somebody who naturally has a strong opinion about things. And for me, early subversion is a fun playstyle for me, whereas red players like early aggression, so they want to move in really quickly, destroy as many units as they can. For me, I want to do early subversion. I don't necessarily want to kill all your units immediately, but I want to control the space from which you can gain victory points, and sort of subvert your ability to actually be aggressive. I tend to be a very defensive Johnny combo player. And so that's sort of my TED Talk, my spew. This is one of my first videos, so please give me any feedback or criticism regarding that. And I hope I get to do a part 2. I am going to do a part 2. There's no hope about it. I'm not a rebel. I'm not a rebel. I'm Gar. I'm all about the conviction and the confidence and shit. I also like Shadow Collective. Darth Maul is pretty badass. So, excuse my language. But yeah. Part 2 will be more about like the tactics regarding standbys. I do feel like it's sort of a mysterious effect in a way where it's like people don't feel like it's very advantageous to just take a standby action. I've heard. I kind of disagree in some ways. Being able to master standbys is almost like a secret weapon, in my opinion. It just rubs people the wrong way sometimes. And so that's where I tend to run into issues. But yeah, part 2 and part 3 will be me breaking down certain tactics and ways of like looking at standbys and how to use them, how to best build a list around using standbys. I play a Galactic Republic list with Cody 2 vehicles, and I do like using that clone specialist in a core unit. So I think that's really cool, a cool option to use. And like other factions have the use of standbys, it just doesn't seem very advantageous in like the rebel, the rebel veterans and their like emplacement trooper, as well as the shore troopers and their emplacement trooper that correspond with, coordinate with them. So yeah, I think this will be an okay first video, but I'm looking forward to making more. So stay tuned. Thank you for your time. Peace.